Hello artists, this is Castle here, and we're going to talk about um, using actual acrylic paint to make colors look like they go back into the distance. Um, so things you're going to need your painting, you're going to need some scrap paper from to mix colors on, you're going to need a palette knife, and you're going to need brushes, and you're going to need paint. And the paints right now are over by the door on the table that has a pink tablecloth on it, but I brought a tray over from my special needs guys were in here and we're painting. You don't need a ton of paint. The acrylic goes pretty far. Oh, and probably a paper towel so you can wipe off your palette knife in between uses, because we don't want to stick a dirty palette knife into a different clean color. So, all right. You don't need a ton because it does go a long way, and all right, so if I have grass on either side of my road, I'm going to want green for my basic color, so I'm going to take some green. And you don't want to be super stingy with it. You want a small amount, not a teeny tiny amount. Last year, before we were thrown out because of COVID, I had students mixing up like that much paint. And that was going to dry out before I ever get it, or get smeared all over the paper before I get it the color I want and can paint with it. And those students were really, really frustrated. So what I want to do is gray down my green, and the complement is what's going to do that. So the complement of red is green, or green is red, and I'm going to take a little bit at a time. This is where we want small amounts, because I don't want it to turn completely red, but I do want my color to be duller than what it is now. I'm going to add a little bit more and smush it around until you don't see streaks in it anymore. So you can still see streaks of red into the green, in the green. And that's looking pretty well mixed. And we can tell, this green on my palette knife is much duller than the other greens. That looks pretty good. Oops. Mix it up some. I think I'm just going to put a tiny, tiny touch in. And please do this on a piece of mixing paper. Don't expect to be able to mix it on your painting and have good results. It's probably good to get your brush a little bit wet, not a lot wet, but just a little bit. That will help your paint spread a little bit. So it's still green, but it's grayed down quite a bit. It's not nearly as bright as it was. And this brush is kind of, now another thing you're going to need to know is how to get a good straight line next to the road. I'm going to use a smaller brush. I'm going to make sure I have paint on one side of my brush, and I'm just going to pull it along that line. And that's very hard. You can pull backwards, but don't push the brush backwards, because that's going to make your painting look not great. And I'm not going to bring this grayed green all the way down to the bottom, because that's closer and it's going to be kind of a strange color for up close. So, and I don't want to take forever on this part. So, okay, I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to... If your paint is kind of sticky, you can add a drop of water, and that will thin it up a little bit and make it easier to work with. Let me show you. Blending more regular green in. Oh, that's, let me show you that again. When you rinse a brush, oops. Okay, I'm going to tap the brush on the bottom of the water container, and then you can take a paper towel and wipe off the brush to get rid of the excess water. I know my brush is clean because there were no paint marks where I wiped my brush off. That's when you know your brush is clean. Okay, so I need to brighten this up again, so I'm going to go back to my paint and get some more green. I'm not going to need a ton. And I'm going to mix some green into here. So it's a little bit dull. So we kind of have a middle ground, halfway between close and far away. This is not a great brush for this. In-person people, I'm going to get you some flat brushes that will be easier. And I'm going to blend my two colors in a little bit. Just kind of brush them back and forth so that the transition between the two is smooth. Now, acrylic is kind of nice because if you make a mistake, you can paint over it and kind of start again. And then now I'm going to put some more green in my some more of the regular green in, and that's going to appear to be even closer. And I'm going to blend those two together so I get a smooth transition. And craftsmanship with the acrylic paint. Inside where I've painted, you'll notice we don't see speckles, or very many speckles. There are a couple of tiny ones, but we don't see a huge amount of background paper. We just see color, and the paint should be kind of thick and what's called opaque. You can't see through it. It should not look like watercolor. If it looks like watercolor, or if you want that watercolory look, don't use acrylic, because the color should be thick and not see-through. Now, yellow, that's kind of see-through because it's yellow. See there, I didn't clean my brush all the way, so I'm going to clean it again. Make sure my brush is clean before I go on to another color. So that's with grass. To make my road look far away, I'm going to have my darkest road color down here, and it's going to go to a gray color, maybe even as light as my background paper. And if you want something yellow, if you have something yellow and you want it to look far away, you're going to mix a little bit of purple in it. If you have water and you want to gray it down a little bit to make it look far away, like in the ocean, you want to use orange and green together. Or orange and blue, sorry, orange and blue, red and green, or yellow and purple. You don't need very much of the complement in there to make it look great, you know, to make it look dull and far away. All right, I will keep working on this, and I will have it up in the room and you'll be able to see it. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.